One of the major concerns we have is climate change itself. Unfortunately, climate change comes with a few things that the bush is not designed to handle. One of them is extreme temperatures, and also with all the extra carbon in the atmosphere, it also comes with extreme growth. So you combine those two things together, the fuel load is massive. A few degrees hotter in the summer. These extreme fire events are really extreme. So, and when they do have a run, they're not actually meant to go up into our high country. Our high country isn't designed to be burnt. And climate change is real, and it is coming for our bush. So if we don't act on building these natural fire breaks, our bush has no real protection from these events, really leaving it wide open to a huge disaster. I'm really concerned about it. Trying to regenerate areas after fire events, especially in our mountain ash species, we're just chasing our tail. We really need to get in front of this. One of the things I wanted to talk to you today about was beneficial forestry practices. So what I want to do is I want to be able to go into the forest and benefit it. So the main threat to our forestry at the moment, one is blackberries and two is fire. So fire is always going to be the dominant threat, but blackberries is a slow choker. I can't even walk into some of the areas I used to just stroll in now. The blackberries are out of control, and it's in parks, it's in everything, and it's getting worse. The deer population's out of control. They're just spreading like crazy. Birds are spreading like crazy. And then because that's not a home to our native species, so it's really transforming our forestry. Now, so what I intend to do is, I need to go into certain areas. So what I want to do is identify the key areas that need rehabilitation to begin. Go into those areas, harvest all the biomass at the start, identify the high grade logs. So when I say identify logs, what I want to do is I want to pick trees that are in clumps of 3 or 4 or 5. All right, and pick the high grade log out of that and just remove that one tree. So what happens there is because that would, through nature, one of those trees would die anyway. You identify which one can be felled, a machine goes in, grabs that, and it takes it away. While we're in there, we have a crew going around removing all the blackberries. They all get yanked out with a machine, and then they do a spray. Probably around about 3 to 4 months later, when the burning season is on, we have now taken the canopy down to a lower height so it is safe to burn, and then we go through and we burn it. So to burn it, that removes the risk, but then it also re-establishes the fire break. But also because we've done the burn, it actually encourages our native species to come back up where the blackberry was, because this blackberry can be over your head high. These other lower lying plants, which are very important for our native species, have no opportunity when the blackberries are there. They slowly die. A lot of them even died for decades. And if we can identify these areas now, and a lot of these areas have got good sized logs. They're mostly areas that have been recovered since the 1939 fire. If we were able to get access to this, we could have our mills up and running, rehabilitating these areas. It would all be paid for and would create jobs. And our forests would love it because it's going back to its original form. To manage these projects, I don't think it can be managed by DELP. DELP's got too much regulation too much regulation involved. Vic Forest, anytime Vic Forest does anything, it just gets beaten up in court. So what I'd like to suggest is that we use our indigenous groups. I really think that they're the true caretakers of this land. They're the ones that used to do it in the past. So if we can restore them back into the environment, I think it'd be very good for them, plus very good for everyone involved. It's their birthright. I don't think that they'll have the criticism. It'll be free of the politics as much as well. They have, through my experience, there's some really good guys that have moved in from Vic Forest to work for some of these Aboriginal groups in the forest, and they've got some serious experience now. The staff from Vic Foresters, there's a lot of experience. There's a lot of people that it's not going to really suit this work, but there is some really good foresters involved in that program, and if you can combine that experience from the sustainable forestry and then bring it over into beneficial forestry practice, we already have all the information. We could have machines running very quickly. The coops have been already identified by Vic Forest, but they just weren't signed off. So a lot of MPs were holding back on signing off anything for Vic Forest, and that's what really destroyed the Matlock area, because that's all they could access. Now, if that were to happen, I think it would be very, very good news for a lot of rural people. It'd be very good news for the environment, and the Aboriginal groups would be pretty happy. I think they'd be very proud to say that they're the caretakers again, and I think it would be very good to bring both the communities back together. The other thing I'd like to talk about is if we advance this technology. So if we give a value to biomass, it doesn't just limit us to the forestry. So now I don't like pine trees. Put my hand up, pine trees kill the environment. They're pretty much a wasteland for our native species. What a lot of people don't realise is that after a major fire event, our actual native species are very landlocked because of the bush burns here, but they can't travel from here because they get run over by cars. So, and the main issue that they have is we've gone from using native species and planting mountain ash and blue gum and all that. Now we're transitioning to pine trees because there's a short-term return. So, large eucalypts take 50 to 60 years. They get a very good return after that 60 years, but pine trees are 25 years. So, quick fuck, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. What I'm suggesting is, so with giving the value to biomass, we can do natural seeding, so we can create natural corridors. All right, so because we're naturally seeding it, the trees will come up like grass, all the understory come up like grass. We can harvest within 3 to 5 years the biomass. All right, leave the larger mature trees, and then probably come back 3 to 5 years later. Now, under that sort of program, it actually works really well for whoever invested in it, because they get a pay slip every year from the carbon credit scheme, but they also get a pay slip from the biomass on top of it. So, and we could go into farmers and ask them, can we buy segments of your land as if you were putting a power line in there, or privately or the government driven, giving native corridors to our species, but then also stimulating income from that. And the other benefit for doing that is that you're actually taking your fuel source closer to where it's required. So if you have a gasifier set up in the house, in a town, in a hospital, in a factory, and you're harvesting, you can take it straight from where it's been harvested straight there. So it reduces the carbon emissions on actually moving the materials around, and then it gives another export. So like I was saying, biochar, it's fertilizer, and then electricity. Then also we've got an export. So those rural areas can export it. Everyone's happy. The environment's a lot happier. We can rehabilitate these areas. We want our koalas rehabilitate. We can put special fences in so that our native species has, and then we can eradicate and monitor all the feral animals going through as well. And the main reason I wanted to bring these things to your attention is that I was pretty disappointed in the outcome of the other day. I understand that the government, was pretty gutless, to be honest. But eventually it was going to happen, so they decided to bring it forward. Unfortunately, they shot from the hip. I do think that the financial hardship that these rural areas is going to be extreme. I really, really, really would enjoy if we could make a group decision as a whole, get together, someone cross the party lines and say, look, let's fix this problem. Let's give rural Victoria a bone. Let's look at it as in helping rural Victoria and developing a new method that will help our environment as well as our people involved in it. Now, because if we open up and change all our laws across our forestry, the access that we can have to building, producing really good timber, especially with these new agreements we have in place, is phenomenal. We can turn that $1.5 billion that Vic Forest turns over into huge amounts of money. Like, we can probably triple, 5 times that, and really get those larger mills going properly. Big logs, but also benefit the forest. So anything that's made, or not even all of it's made, but it can subsidise our conservation and really drive conservation. So it would make a lot of political sense if we could change this one decision, stop playing emotional politics and just get on with doing the bloody job. I'd really appreciate if a few of you get back to me. I'm more than happy to talk to anyone who wants to do something positive like I do, and really do make a difference to our environment. I'd like to thank you for your time. I really think that this something has to happen now before we lose all this experienced machinery required, sawmill workers go, everything. I do think it's very important that the government come to the party. We are leaving ourselves wide open. Every time there's a fire event, it's just climate change. Well, that's a load of bullshit. It's our lack of inaction. We do need to do something, and we need to act. We need to take the political agenda away and let the people who have the knowledge and the experience do their job. So if you'd like to get in contact with me, give me a ring, send me an email, whatever. Let's just get the ball rolling to just sort this problem out. Thank you.